Welcome to episode 115 of Ring Takes here. SummerSlam is here, everyone. So we're going to be making our predictions, giving the rundown of the card and what we think of the event leading up to it, as well as getting into the passing of Hulk Hogan at the age of 71, talking about his controversial legacy and impact on the business and our thoughts, and maybe getting into a little bit of WWE Unreal, the documentary on Netflix that recently came out, looking to talk a little bit about that. But stay tuned, everyone.
What? Two! Oh my gosh! So close! He kicked out! He kicked out! He kicked...
Here we are, episode 115 of Ring Takes here. I'm Daniel with Brian and Lewis. Of course, it's SummerSlam time, so that means we get to make our picks again, everyone. Talking about the lead up to SummerSlam and the matches on the card. First two-night ever event in SummerSlam history. WWE definitely drawing these things out, but we're going to get some good wrestling on the card. But before we get into that, we have to talk about the passing of Hulk Hogan at age 71. Controversial, had some heart problems. He had surgery, a back fusion surgery, if I read it right. About a month ago, and complications from that and sickness and deteriorating health over time led us to the passing of Hulk Hogan at age 71. What do you guys, I'm going to let you guys go first, or if you guys want me to go first, I don't know who wants to go first, but what are our thoughts on the passing of Hulk Hogan and his legacy and impact on the business?
I guess I'll start it off. I think I had when Ryan had announced the news. I think I had put it in the chat that, you know, personal feelings aside, you know, you can't doubt his impact on the wrestling business in general. What we're doing right now, recording this podcast, all these other wrestling podcasts that you see out there. You see where WWE is now. You see where these other promotions like AEW, Ring of Honor, all these promotions, all within the realm of sports entertainment. None of that is possible without Hulk Hogan. So he gets the credit for that. The big boom in the 80s with professional wrestling is because of Hulk Hogan. When Vince McMahon wanted to, I remember I was watching an old Legends of Wrestling episode talking about the territories, how things were before Vince McMahon decided to go national and put WWE in every home. How things used to be. Like I said, Vince McMahon, you know, he wanted to take his company to the next level and go national. In order to do that, he needed a face. He needed a star to say, like, this is sports entertainment and this is my company. And Hulk Hogan was the perfect guy for that. When the whole idea of wrestling becoming mainstream, Hulk Hogan is primarily responsible for that. So he gets that credit. But that's just for professional wrestling. Now me personally, I know it's kind of bad to speak ill of the dead, but you know, when that video came out of all those remarks that he made towards his then daughter's boyfriend, it's just that when you make comments like that, you know, it's damn near impossible to come back from it, no matter what you say, because you know, when you express all of that privately, it just exposes, like, okay, that's how you really are, and then to try to not even take accountability for it, to kind of just respond to it in the aspect of, oh, you got to watch out for cameras, you never know who's around to record what you're going to say, instead of taking accountability for it. That's just kind of something I can't really accept. So yeah. The reason why it's really complicated when you're talking about Hulk Hogan, because you want to honor his legacy and honor what he did for this genre of professional wrestling that we all know and love. But then when you kind of look at him personally, you know, it gets very complicated. And I know a lot of people want to throw out the argument of, like, guys like us, we don't know Hulk Hogan personally, we don't know him personally, so therefore there's a difference between the character and the man. But to me, the man portrayed the character, and to me, he kind of hid behind the character for all those years that he's this all-American good guy. And because he hid behind the character, and we all kind of were fooled until that video came out. Because up until the video came out, I know Hulk Hogan had legal trouble and all other stuff, but nothing was as explosive as when those remarks came out. Because then everybody was just like, "Oh, so this all American hero is a racist?" So it's all yeah. But that's just how I feel personally. But as far as his impact on the wrestling industry, like I said, shows like this that we're recording right now, and everything that made professional wrestling that got professional wrestling to become mainstream is for Hulk Hogan. So he gets his flowers. So he gets his flowers for that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I didn't grow up in the early '80s to really feel the impact of Hulk Hogan. Obviously, as I grew up later on, watching my own history and learning everything about him, Andre the Giant, everybody from that era, and just learning how great they were. Obviously, you knew how big he was, the impact he had, and like Brian said, we wouldn't have all of this because of him. But I just to piggyback on what Brian said, I think, like he said, it's yes, he portrayed this character, but did we ever really know who the real man was? Yes, we're going to have people obviously in the business who are like, will praise him and, give him all his flowers. Really, he was this great person. Yes, he was an icon, but now he falls in the realm of these people that, they're so high up because of their impact. It's like, where can we really just look over this aspect while not discussing the other aspects? It's kind of like I think the only example I can think of is kind of like a Michael Jackson type situation. It was like, the music, it's amazing, but there's this other stuff here. It's like, well, but do you discredit all the music because of what they do, or do you discredit Hulk Hogan's work because of what he said? And it's like, for me personally, it just puts it I don't know. It just brings a damper down. Yes, you wouldn't have any of this because of him. Yes, he elevated wrestling, to new heights, especially in the era where, we're not in social media, where we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, or stories or rumors, where people literally believed everything was real, and like, and even especially with him and the whole WCW thing, that was massive. That was like probably one of like the greatest storylines that people just thought, like, how is this even possible? How is this going on?
He brought breath into wrestling twice.
Exactly.
With his boom, and then '96 he joined the NWO. So,
and I was also watching at the time when he came back and wrestled The Rock, and I mean, the man still looked great. You felt that energy. Yes, I didn't get to see that pay-per-view live, but I still watched it afterwards, and it's just like, that crowd was like, you had to, again, another icon, past, present, at one moment, and you felt how big that was. And I think there are points where they kept bringing him back, and you're like, okay, you still got to honor the legend. But I think all that stuff that came out, and then even just later on, him just not taking accountability for other things that came out, other actions that came out, I think it also just brought down that character. For me personally, it brought that down even more. I mean, there's even proof on our show where I may have criticized him.
Lewis did not want him in the
Again, everybody has their own greats. Sorry, for me, he's not on mine, but I cannot discredit the work and everything that he brought to wrestling. But for me, it still leaves an asterisk on all of that. So,
I'm gonna agree with both of you guys. Hulk Hogan is one thing that he brought to the wrestling industry was marketability. Right, it wasn't just a circus act anymore. When he stepped in and got those movie roles and got with Rocky, I believe it was Rocky 3 or whatever the case may be, got these cross-branded roles, he really put an eye on professional wrestling from a standpoint of cartoons, merchandise, sales, everything that brought money into wrestling, he was probably responsible for that, right? He was the guy that was handpicked by Vince McMahon to usher in this era of wrestling and really take it to the next level, which he did. Cannot discredit what he did in the ring. In terms of, as I said earlier, as Lewis alluded to, breathing life into the business twice, right? With the boom in the 80s, 84, to the late 80s, into the NWO in 1996, and basically changed professional wrestling a couple times, right? Like that usually doesn't happen where a person's able to have that type of impact and carried into the year 2000, right? When it came to WWF, WWE, et cetera, bringing that fandom for that long. And for him to do that, to have that impact on the business, kudos to him. Without him, we wouldn't probably be talking about wrestling on this scale that we try to do here with this podcast, right? We wouldn't probably have this podcast. Wrestling probably wouldn't be as reachable if it wasn't for him doing what he did in professional wrestling. So I can't take anything away from him on that end. On the other end, as a black person, looking at what he did and said, that stuff matters. And in this world of cancel culture where it only takes one thing, he had multiple chances to right the ship, right? He had multiple times to get this right and be like, okay. And even if you say that stuff behind closed doors and you have an opportunity to right the ship and you don't do that, that's not going to look good to anybody. That's not going to sit right with anybody, at least anybody, the person of color, when you say those things. And when wrestlers, your peers, are sitting there going, you were disingenuous in your apology and your rap sheet, and you're talking to us behind the back, and you're saying, make sure people aren't recording. And I understand that from that standpoint of there's probably a world of professional wrestlers and other people like us, regular people, everyday walks of life, who have said things that if you said publicly would get canceled or get in trouble or get looked at a certain way. Completely understand that. But in a sense, when you're sitting there addressing people and trying to make apologies, that's not how you go about it, basically saying, hey, make sure you don't get caught saying such and such or doing such and such. That's not the way to go about it. And then you're just continuing to disengage himself and kind of get out of touch with professional wrestling, right? And kind of not being the know-how is kind of like, okay, this guy's just this crazy guy from the older years of wrestling and we love him XYZ. It got so bad where even politically, I know people don't want to get into politics, but he's aligning himself with Donald Trump, playing that whole thing, Real American Bear.
Took a shot at Kamala Harris.
Taking a shot at Kamala Harris. Even that wasn't a good eye. And it's like, okay, you have this cringy record with race, and then you play on that. Doesn't look good going forward. I know that people might say, hey, don't care about politics, don't care about race, XYZ, but it's like, we can't ignore that. That's something that can't be ignored. So looking at what Hulk Hogan's done for the industry, thank you from that standpoint in terms of what he's done. But overall, as a human being, Terry Bollea, the person, I can't rock with that. And that's where I'm going to leave it, because I know people are, my biggest issue is that people who are mad at people like us who have an issue with Hulk Hogan because of what he said, and they say people make mistakes in XYZ, and it's like, the issue, if I'm going to give you the grace to praise Hulk Hogan for what he did in the business, you also have to give us praise to feel the way about his comments and not bridging the gap with that. So it's a catch-22 on that. Like, yeah, we understand what he's done for the wrestling business. Probably wouldn't even be here without him in terms of talking wrestling as big as it is. He was definitely an icon and impactful in that way. But as the person, comes off kind of like a scumbag, right? Like all the stuff with we all talk about the union stuff. We talk about it in our chats, the union stuff with Hogan. You snitched on Jesse Bobby Ventura and the other couple of guys that were trying to start a union, which would have benefited a lot of people in terms of their livelihood, in terms of getting insurance and getting protection from certain things, especially back in the day. So you're doing that, you're doing stuff like that. You're basically politicking to get all these perks like creative control and stuff like that. And I'm not going to knock them for that, because these guys are individual contractors. You have to look out for yourself and get the things. contracts are probably so different now today because of Hulk Hogan, what he did in the 90s. So like his impact from a financial impact, legal standpoint, all of that, it's like, okay, there's good with Hulk Hogan in terms of the money you can make, the boom that you can make, the notoriety that you can gain. But on the other side, it kind of burned some people along the way. So I don't want to make it seem like everything that he did was all hunky-dory, all good and stuff like that. Obviously, the impact is good. But there was some plot holes that affected a lot of people on the other side of it too. And then you come out with the comments, doesn't sit right with me. So Hulk Hogan passed after 71, prayers to his family and stuff like that, and condolences. Because obviously when you go in for a surgery and stuff like that, and you hear about his last days and stuff like that, and trying to keep people away so he doesn't get infected, he doesn't infect them and stuff like that with sicknesses. That's terrible. That kind of reminded me of COVID a little bit. But from the standpoint of Hulk Hogan, I'm just going to leave it there. I don't want any harm to his family or anything like that. There's some issues there with his daughter and all that type of stuff and legal battles and all that types of stuff. But it's just like Hulk Hogan, definitely impactful. The man, Terry Bollea, rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So